Going on, everyone? John Matrix here. So, again, heading into the wonderful world of the SCP universe with the Exploring series. Today, we're checking out the Exploring the SCP Foundation SCP-184, the Architect. In the last video I watched on London, he made mention of another SCP called the Architect that may or may not have had a hand, or at least has done things similar to creating a place like on London. So with that reference, I kind of wanted to check out exactly what the Architect is, and etc, etc. So we're skipping ahead of this playlist that has been given to me to check out, to go through this SCP stuff, but it is what it is. We're going off rails a little bit. So yeah, we're gonna check out that. Like always, links down below in the description to the Exploring series channel and to this original video of his without my reaction and commentary. So if you could do me a favor, click on those links. Give this video a like if you enjoyed his video. Check out his channel and his content. He does a lot of content for other universes, not just the SCP, so check out his stuff. And there's a join button down below, somewhere below the video. If you would like to, you can click the join button and see if any of my YouTube membership tiers have any kind of interest to you, if you want to take your support to the next level. Regardless, I just appreciate you guys coming and hanging out and watching the videos and having a good time. So let's get into this. Again, Exploring the SCP Foundation SCP-184, the Architect. Let's check this here out. Boop, boop.
SCP-184, the Architect. By most people's standards, we live in a relatively mundane world, especially when compared to the wonders of fantasy and science fiction. That is not to say that we don't sometimes have our own wonders.
So I meant to kind of say before I really started the video as well. I'm just going to pause here again. The only thing I can really think of with the Architect that comes to mind is essentially the Matrix. You know, the scene in the second Matrix movie where Neo gets to, like, I guess the core, and he has the conversation with the Architect, who supposedly is being the AI, whatever, that created the Matrix and is like watching and maintaining it along with the Oracle. So that's kind of the idea that I get. Is there some kind of SCP out there that is able to, you know, maybe bend, alter, create certain reality simulations, something like that? I don't know. So, but yeah, I guess let's continue with the video here and see what he says. I'm gonna rewind here just a second. There we go.
Mundane world, especially when compared to the wonders of fantasy and science fiction. That is not to say that we don't sometimes have our own wonders, and in fact we'll be discussing one of them today. But fictional universes such as SCP tend to be on a different level. But sometimes, what can look fairly harmless on the surface, such as SCP-184, can also hide an incredible truth behind it. SCP-184 is a small metallic object in the shape of a dodecahedron.
Definitely not what I was expecting, but dodecahedron, interesting. If anyone out here who watches this is into Critical Role at all and has watched through Campaign 2, that's interesting. I wonder, I don't know. I would assume it doesn't have any kind of crossover, but I don't know. It just makes me think of the beacons and the Lux and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, that's Critical Role stuff. Other nerd stuff.
Is a small metallic object in the shape of a dodecahedron, composed of an unknown, highly magnetic substance. When inside of a structure, whether it be a mansion or a cardboard box, 184 will cause the interior dimensions of the structure to expand, without affecting the exterior size.
Interesting.
This process starts 1 hour after 184 enters a structure, and first begins by extending the walls out, eventually adjusting the ceiling as well, until the interior has tripled in size.
I forget what the terminology is called, but it has something to do with like quantum physics, where, you know, the interior of a space can be larger than the exterior of a space. I guess it's something that is theoretically possible, but obviously we're just not able to really necessarily accomplish it. So I guess this is essentially what that is. So interesting.
So far, this sounds fairly beneficial, greatly expanding spaces with no downsides. But 184 isn't done yet. At this point, 184 will begin to create entirely new rooms for the structure, again without adjusting the exterior dimensions.
I would assume eventually it could get to the point where, like, if unchecked, it could create like whole other alternate realities potentially based on this room, you know what I mean? So I would assume, like, if you leave the device in a spot for long enough, it could keep growing and expanding and creating, like I said, whole alternate realities, universes, or whatever. If that is the case, so I guess we'll find out as the video goes along here. But that could have implications that these devices could be, if that is the case, this could have implications that these devices are, you know, some kind of implement created by something to essentially do that, to create alternate universes and realities based off whatever spaces they're in if they're left alone for a long enough period of time. So I don't know, that would be interesting. So I guess let's find out if that's where my speculations are going.
At first, 184 seems to copy furniture and other items that already exist in the structure.
IKEA's got to be pissed about
rooms
that.
That look consistent with the originals. But over time, the process begins to deviate. Rooms will become oddly shaped, doors open to nowhere, and hallways will deform into tiny crevices or twisting mazes. Also, items within rooms will start to be made from inappropriate materials, such as glass books or wooden microwaves.
Interesting.
This process continues as long as 184 is kept inside of a structure, with rooms deviating more and more until 184 is removed.
Maybe it's just creating items and structures based off the material that it sees in the area. You know, it can only like create stuff out of substances that it knows, and it doesn't necessarily know what substance is supposed to go with what. So it's just like making stuff. Interesting.
At which point any rooms that were created will remain, but no new ones will pop up. To prevent 184 from turning one of the Foundation's sites into a planet-sized maze of nightmarish rooms and hallways,
be terrible.
184 is kept outdoors, in an area resembling a park, attached to a high-powered electromagnet disguised as statuary.
So in an open space, it doesn't work, but when it's in an enclosed space, it does. I would assume the electromagnets also has something to do with it being contained. That's interesting.
It was first retrieved by the SCP Foundation after they started to look into the Kowloon Walled City, intrigued by its bizarre nature. I've done an entire video on the Walled City if you're interested in a more historical perspective.
Interesting, I'll have to follow up with that.
Basically, it was a mostly ungoverned, self-contained city that was generally considered to be the most densely populated location on Earth, until its demolition in 1994. The city consisted of ramshackle stacks of homes and businesses on top of one another, filled in with jury-rigged electrical wires and water pipes. The city served as a testament to humanity's ingenuity and adaptability, but is definitely one of the most curious things to exist in the modern world. A city like that, where space comes at such a premium, could certainly find a use for an anomalous item that expanded interiors.
True.
Mobile Task Force Zeta-9, the Mole Rats, who you may remember from SCP-1730,
my boys,
were sent into the walled city to retrieve SCP-184. We get information about this retrieval from the personal log of one of the Mole Rats, named Gordon Richards. I'll read his first entry. Dispatched to the Kowloon Walled City to recover an object and document anything affected by it. I have never seen such a horrible place. The filth is everywhere, whole walls and even structures made of garbage. If you crack your suit for even a second, you get flooded by the smell of smoke, cooking, sweat, machine oil, and excrement.
It probably would be gross.
Henry fell into a pit used as a sewer on the ground level after breaking through a trash walkway. He was fine, the suit was just filthy, but he threw up and had to be removed. I'm not sure if he's going to work out. Everyone here avoids us like the plague, or darts out to throw trash or insults. They are a tribe, and a territorial one at that. The sheer crush of humanity is intimidating, and I'm glad I have the suit between me and them. The object is supposed to be somewhere in the core of this mass, but getting there is going to be tricky. The mole rats, assisted by local law enforcement, performed a number of raids throughout the city, finding a few homes affected by 184. Gordon remarks on how strange it is to go inside one and place your hand on a wall, knowing you should be 6 feet outside of the structure in mid-air. He notes that Henry is better today, but is rather jumpy, and Gordon caught him muttering to himself.
Oh, Lord.
They continue to do recon to hopefully find where 184 is currently located. 2 days later, Henry was swarmed by a mob of locals and carried off deep into the city. The mole rats were planning a rescue op when Henry's voice popped up on the radio, rambling about the endless heart of the city and the hell of glass. His radio cut off again, and shortly after he came running down an alleyway, screaming like a madman. He slammed.
Interesting. I wonder. So, I mean, he took off his suit at one point, and I wonder if he got infected by something. You know? And he's like kind of gone delirious or something like that. I don't know. Interesting. But it's also weird that these, you know, people specifically kind of seem to have targeted him, you know, grabbed him and took him to some kind of location, and then I don't know, maybe it was a part of some kind of ritual or something. This is, I don't know, very strange.
Slammed into a dame running down an alleyway, screaming like a madman. He slammed into a dead end, but broke through it, falling 6 stories onto a pile of metal junk.
Rip.
The remaining mole rats decided to round up some of the local leaders and interrogate them about what's going on.
Yeah, no kidding.
The interrogation inevitably involves physical coercion.
Of course.
And the mole rats learn that the locals refer to the object as the Builder, and that it's kept in a sort of temple in one of the oldest parts of the city. One of the elders says that it makes wonderful things, but only the worthy can look upon it without being overwhelmed by it. When the mole rats first arrived, the locals had moved the object deep into the temple so that they would not find it. But the mole rats decide to head into this temple anyways to retrieve it. The next log entry is a few days later, and Gordon reports that the temple is amazing, as it seems like someone built 12 temples into one. They find 80...
Yeah, you would think that, like, it would be hard to retrieve, right? Because they would go into this temple, and because it's been in there for so long, the temple itself would be some kind of giant maze just to get there and then get out. And who's to say, as they grab it and they're trying to escape, that it wouldn't be recreating the maze to keep itself in there and keep them in there, you know, at the same time. I don't know. This is very interesting. This artwork as they're going along too is very interesting and creepy with the scene. Like, I don't know. This whole, like, this looks like, yeah, a temple built around this concrete building. And yeah, I don't know. This just looks like some kind of dark. This looks like this would be like a temple to a chaos god or something like that in the 40K universe in here. I don't know. Very creepy.
Someone built 12 temples into one. They find 83 rooms connected to one another by sliding doors, each with a tiny Buddha in the center of the floor.
Interesting.
They also found a room that was a perfect reproduction of the first altar room, but was carved out of one solid mass of wood, with no tool marks or seams. They uncovered documents written by locals that described how they continued to move the object deeper into the temple as it built new rooms, and believed it to be a gift from God. They would also loan the object to other locals in the city in exchange for donations. By Gordon's account, the mole rats should currently be 20 feet above the top of the city right now, but are still inside of a single small building.
Right.
Presumably 2 more days pass, although Gordon seems less sure of the date now, and he has split away from the other mole rats to continue exploring. He passes through wavy...
I feel like that's a bad idea. In a structure that is, well, I guess they might not necessarily know that the structure is, like, continuously, I guess, growing or whatever, but, like, you're in a weird environment with weird people and you're gonna go off on your own, dude. That's just not a good idea. You're asking to get killed.
Halls and rooms made entirely of jade.
Like, have you watched a horror movie, brother? I'm just saying.
He passes through wavy halls and rooms made entirely of jade, chairs made from thousands of tiny dragon statues, and tables made of super dense paper. Gordon's mental state is beginning to deteriorate now that he's alone in this endless abstract maze.
Yeah.
He begins to hear voices as he runs low on food and water, and he continues to climb through this anomalous location. He encounters a room filled with millions of lit candles, and proceeds to remove his helmet and smash a number of candles with it before crying for hours.
Fuck.
He drops a pick down a vertical shaft, but never hears it hit a bottom.
Good lord.
Soon his food and water supplies run out entirely, and the location's design continues to grow even stranger as he runs down a hallway with thousands of doors. He cuts his suit and feet to ribbons on a floor that looked like carpet, but turned out to be super sharp stone.
Nice.
He also continues to hear Henry's voice, despite Gordon telling him that he's dead. Gordon's final 2 logs read, "Top of shaft, hall to forever, lights everywhere, going to kill the heart," and "Hell is heaven, heaven is hell, life is wonderful."
Interesting.
We're informed that Gordon was never recovered from inside the temple,
I would bet.
and that SCP-184 was retrieved by the other mole rats. Gordon's log was found in the rubble of the temple after it was demolished. SCP-184 is an intriguing enough article on its own, as an early example of a really anomalous location, combined with the natural strangeness of the Kowloon walled city. But there is a tale I'd like to discuss here as well. The tale is called Codename The Truth, and the effect of its final reveal is somewhat diminished since you're watching a video on SCP-184, but I'll summarize it nonetheless. It's a tale that concerns the true identity of SCP-001.
Interesting.
Starting by asking, what is the easiest way to hide the identity of SCP-001? It discusses how the 001 page is intentionally misleading,
Right.
suggesting that none...
Yeah, we know that SCP-001, there is, like, only maybe, like, probably less than a handful of people actually know what SCP-001 is and where it is, and et cetera, and there's so many, like, falsified variations of what SCP-001 is that no one really knows what it is, and it's kind of a way of, I guess, like, in canon for the viewer of SCP to just, like, whatever you want SCP-001 to be, it actually really is, but I don't know if there's actually technically really an SCP-001.
The 001 page is intentionally misleading, suggesting that none, one, several, or all of the 001 proposals are the true one, and that most people conclude that there is no SCP-001, or that all of 001 proposals are true. Most people, however, don't think outside of the box and don't realize the truth. We're then given a series of transcribed audio logs from a Foundation expedition into deep space, in order to observe parts of space imperceptible from Earth. The Foundation has suspected something is off about some distant galaxies, and now possesses the technology to travel much faster than light.
I was going to say, it's interesting that they have the ability to travel through space and at greater than light speed. So, okay.
Galaxies, and now possesses the technology to travel much faster than light, so that they can have first-hand observations. A number of individuals are sent on the mission, but we mostly only follow Frank, as he is recording the logs. It takes them about 18 days to pass by the galaxy Messier 83, which is approximately 15 million light-years from Earth.
So is this going to turn out to be like where these other galaxies are like malformed in certain ways, and that we're all actually trapped in this architectodecahedron, and that it's the we're essentially a simulation in it, simulation, whatever, you know? I feel like that's where this is going.
2 months later, they've passed by GN-Z11, the farthest galaxy observable from Earth, 32 billion light-years away. The next log finds the ship approaching the nearest galaxy, and it turns out to be a copy of the Milky Way. Not perfect, but close enough. Moving into the galaxy, they find a star made of ice cream, tasting of avocados and cigarettes.
Interesting.
Another star composed entirely of liquid chlorophyll, one of solid iodine, and a copy of Proxima Centauri made of charcoal. Finally, they reach the copy of Earth, but find it also messed up, with Australia apparently a solid block of gold, the American continent made of maple syrup, and the oceans are glowing. Frank also mentions that another crew member, Marie, is pregnant, although they're not sure that it's her husband's child. The ship leaves the galaxy to head to the next nearest one, but finds that it's another copy of the Milky Way, just as messed up as the other one. Mercury is made of ice, Jupiter is composed of an edible jelly, and Frank describes this Earth as a sarkic utopia, comprised of flesh, bone, and blood.
Interesting. So, like, the idea, I guess, would be that the universe is essentially like different parts of the universe, different galaxies are essentially just a copy of itself with different realities playing out in one reality, one universe or something. What it sounds like, you know, like our Milky Way galaxy, I guess, would be considered like the prime one, and then the rest of them out there are like carbon copies with other alternate realities where I've played out. Like, you know, he said this one is like a sarkic utopia. The next one they go to could be a mechan utopia, etc., etc. The next one they could go to, the flesh that hates is taking over the entire, you know, planet, and it's just this giant, you know, glob of whatever, you know, that SCP is, etc. Interesting.
Sarkic utopia.
Now I wonder if it also would be the indication that, you know, this dodecahedron, you know, maybe because it originated in our galaxy and on our planet, that like because it's been there so long, like everything in our galaxy, etc., has stabilized from it, you know, creating, and as you get further and further away, it's still in the process of like stabilizing and recreating things. So like that's why things are so messed up and weird and not right, I guess, quote unquote. That would be another interesting thing.
And Frank describes this Earth as a sarkic utopia, comprised of flesh, bone, and blood. As expected, the third galaxy they approach looks to be another copy, and Frank mentions an incident with a crew member whose arm was broken while fixing a strange mechanical fault. The ship continues on its mission, finding more copies of the Milky Way, each as strange as the last, and Frank mentions other anomalies out here, such as a galaxy that always seems to be in the distance, and another galaxy that their computers won't pick up, despite them being able to physically see it.
Interesting.
He also says their computers have been picking up some voices from pockets of space, and occasionally their entire ship will go offline for a brief period of time before turning back on.
That's creepy.
Additionally, Marie has been quarantined by security for an unknown reason.
Wasn't she pregnant?
They find an Earth with a copy of Las Vegas made of poker chips and cards, and a New York carved out of a single mass of obsidian. But they have yet to find any signs of life. Frank continues to list the oddities, with Tokyo made of seaweed, Chicago carved from a giant mango, and Uranus made of a silent lattice of turning gears. The sun is covered by a vast horde of stone that shift and move whenever they stop looking at it, seemingly a reference to SCP-173. He also says Mars is made of camel leather, and a single raging immortal walks its surface, although he doesn't elaborate on that. Security around Marie is increased, up to 20 guards armed with assault rifles, and the ship begins to make its journey back home.
She gonna give birth to the Scarlet King here now?
The next log is from another crew member.
That's straight out of 40K here with this ship.
named David rather than Frank. And David informs us that Frank, along with most of
Okay, so like, is this David from Aliens now? Okay, is like Alien, you know, Prometheus, Alien Covenant? Was that what's happening? Is that actually a SCP? Is that where we're going with this?
David rather than Frank. And David informs us that Frank, along with most of the crew, is dead. Marie finally gave birth to some sort of eldritch abomination that slaughtered nearly everyone. David tells us to stay the hell away from this corner of the universe, as it's a cesspool of anomalies and it continues to expand. He then realizes why, and wonders if the overseers already knew what they would find out here. He remarks that the cafeteria is only issuing out rat poison, but says that they didn't go far enough for the ship to really start to be warped. The final log seems to be automated, as it contains only different fragments of audio from past logs randomly thrown together.
The machine spirit.
The report ends by saying that these logs have been buried to hide the truth, which is that the easiest way to hide the identity of SCP-001, the architect of the universe and its infinite hordes of flaws, is to not classify it as 001, but instead as 184. In other words, just as SCP-184 was capable of expanding a structure by adding to the interior with new rooms made of flawed items, so could it expand the universe by making flawed copies of our galaxy. Essentially, our universe was the structure that 184 was expanding, and it is not a perfect architect.
Yeah, so, well, I mean, I wonder again if it's just a situation where, because it's centralized here on our planet and our galaxy, and that it's had so much time here that, you know, it's been able to essentially create things properly, I guess. I don't know if that's the right way of saying it, but, you know, things have been able to stabilize, and that everything outer, it's still like working on creating, so it's in flux still. It's still kind of in like this chaos state, and as it has more time, eventually things will stabilize and kind of be grounded in reality and be, I guess, correct. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know if that's the case, or if it's like what they're saying here, where it's just like, you know, sees all the materials from our galaxy and has expanded on the universe just in an incorrect and imperfect way. You know, I don't know, but that's interesting. And it would be, you know, a good case for this being SCP-001, as it's essentially creating our universe and our reality, you know, beyond us. So
structure that 184 was expanding, and it is not a perfect architect. Like other SCP-001 proposals, you can feel free to accept this as the truth or not. Whether SCP-184 is an interesting little SCP featuring an exploration into the fascinating Kowloon Walled City, or it's a far more impactful part of the SCP universe, it holds a lot of appeal. It does make you wonder, though, if SCP-184 treats the entire universe as a structure to be expanded without changing the exterior, what exactly is the exterior?
And what exactly is the interior? You know, like, if our galaxy is considered to be the interior from which it's trapped in, and it's expanding and everything outside of that, like, why does it see that as the interior? And is there some kind of structure or barrier that is imperceivable to us around it that it perceives and sees it as an interior of something? And if so, then why is, again, the rest of the universe outside considered the exterior that's expanding on and creating on? How do you hide the most important anomaly the Foundation ever has and ever will come across? How do you hide the creator of 2,000 anomalies to follow? How do you hide the ultimate weapon? How do you hide the universe itself? How do you hide something worse? I mean, it is a fascinating idea that this little thing essentially could be, I guess, for all intents and purposes, you know, God, and is creating everything around us. It's interesting that it's not creating life in these other galaxies though, and that for whatever reason our Milky Way does have life, or at least our Earth and our planet does, you know. So that is something that is fascinating. And again, I wonder if it's just a situation where it's had more time in our area relative to its existence, where things have been able to stabilize, and so life, because things have stabilized, life has had a chance to, you know, be created and evolve into what it is, and that these other galaxies outside are still essentially being created. They haven't stabilized essentially yet, and so eventually they may be, you know, they might, and however they stabilize in whatever ways, life could evolve in those different forms, you know. Because I mean, like you said, I mean, I guess technically there is life on one of them, because, or a couple of them, because he says, you know, one of them, there's a Mars that is made of like camel leather, and there's some kind of raging immortal that's just wandering it. So I mean, that's life. There's another planet that is a Sarkic utopia. I guess technically you could say that that's life, you know what I mean? So who knows? It could just again be, you know, infinite numbers of realities playing out in infinite ways in different parts of, I guess, what would be considered different parts of the universe, but are essentially just different copies of us played out in different ways, you know, in the Milky Way. So I mean, it's a fascinating idea. And I guess, you know, would we be considered like the prime one? Or, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. And are there, in these other, you know, galaxies, if you could find it, are there other versions of this architect box, you know, this dodecahedron there, you know, and is that also part of the issue? Is it, you know, who knows? Who knows? But it's a fascinating idea, whether it's just something, a simple anomaly that, you know, you put it in a room and it's able to essentially create other spaces outside of it, but when given an open area, it seemingly isn't. Or is it that because it's in an open area, the only thing it perceives as outside of it is the universe itself, so it's recreating and restructuring the universe outside? And yeah, you know, I guess obviously it's one of those things that's very much left up to interpretation, but it's definitely a thinker. These are the kind of videos that I find very fascinating and interesting, because it's stuff where it could be, like I said, left up to interpretation, and it's up to you how you want to think or believe it. So could this be SCP-001? Is this the ultimate anomaly? Is this essentially, you know, the god of gods, I guess, in this dodecahedron, whatever it is? And then the thing is too, is like, is there anything inside the dodecahedron? Could there be some kind of other alternate, you know, super universe reality in there that we're unaware of? You know, I don't know. Who knows? But fascinating video. As always, links will be down below in the description to the original video without my commentary and reaction, and to the Exploring Series channel. If you do me a favor, click on those links, give his video a like if you enjoyed it, and check out his channel. He has a lot of great content, so give him a sub if you'd like to. Check out any other ways to support him if you would like to. There is a join button down below somewhere below this video. You can click that. Take a look at the YouTube membership tiers that I offer, see if any of those have any interest to you, if you would like to take the support to the next level. If not, like I said before, I just greatly appreciate you guys coming and hanging out, taking that time to watch the video and hang out and listen to me. So yeah, appreciate you guys. Hope you're having a wonderful day. If you liked the video, consider leaving a like and a sub. That helps me and it helps the channel grow. And I hope you're having a great day whenever you're watching this, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take it easy.